Great. So welcome to everyone who's listening on the call. I really just wanted to express my gratitude to Nicole for saying yes to jumping in here to share her story about how she reversed her chronic urticaria. Because we all know this is quite a scary journey to do on your own, and today is the day to celebrate and share your story. So thanks so much for joining me.
No problem.
You're welcome. So, Nicole, first, before we dive into a couple of questions, do you want to just let everyone know where you are, what you do, just a little bit of a background about you?
So I live in Melbourne, Australia. I'm just a stay-at-home mum at the moment, but before that I used to work at a homeless refuge. And my hobbies are gardening, I like playing guitar and doing some art.
Okay, very nice. So would you like to describe for everyone where you were on your hives journey before you started working with me?
Yeah, so it's been a bit of an up and down journey. My hives started back in December last year, so 2021. And before then, I hadn't felt particularly good about my health after the birth of my second child. Like I'd just had a few health things. And at the time, I was trying to get fit and healthy, going swimming at the pool every day and trying to eat more health food. Probably too many soybeans, in hindsight, not a good idea. But yeah, I got the hives. I was cooking dessert for a Christmas party. I ate a bit too much of the leftovers and got really bad heartburn. And I woke up with hives. And I just popped an antihistamine and thought not much of it, because in the past I've had hives a few times and antihistamines got rid of them within a day. But the next day I went to the Christmas party, ate all the wrong foods, alcohol, high histamine things, and I came back, and that week they kept getting worse and worse. As worst time of the year, Christmas parties, junk food, and they kept coming back until they were all over me, and I went to the doctor covered in hives. They put me on steroids, which didn't really work too well. After the first setter, they wore out at about 12 hours, and ended up going to emergency with my face swelling, and I wasn't sure if it was an anxiety attack or I was actually having trouble breathing. I didn't know, but I managed to sort that out and take one every 12 hours, and the hives went away on the steroids. But unfortunately, when I went to wean off them, the hives returned. So that was quite disappointing. So I really putting a lot of pressure on myself to get better, because I was hoping to try for another pregnancy right at that time. And I just wanted to be healthy and my boy to be better. So I was quite annoyed and disheartened from that. So I ended up seeing dermatologists who just said, it's probably acute hives. You can take 4 antihistamines a day. If it goes on any longer than 6 weeks, let me know. You can have the option of injections.
Oh wow, yeah. So did you do the 4 antihistamines per day, and where were you? Did you do the 6 weeks, and what happened after that?
Yeah, I was pretty reluctant to do antihistamines because I wanted to get pregnant. So I'm like, medication, I don't really want to take the solution. I was already thinking I don't want medication. Taking one every so often. But I actually did end up working my way up to 4, because after the 6 weeks, obviously the hives didn't go away. And that was really disappointing. Went back to the GP and she just matter of fact said, you have an autoimmune disease. Here's another referral for a dermatologist. I was like, that's so disheartening. So I ended up actually trying 4 to see if it would actually work. And it didn't seem to make any difference.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And so then I guess it was around about this time that you started looking for support, and then found the group, this Facebook group, the Chronic Urticaria Solution Seekers.
Yeah, that's right. It was about this time, like a month after having hives. I've kind of Googled so much and life wasn't much fun. I was kind of stuck indoors, and I thought it was all the external things that were contributing to my hives, maybe pollen or plants. So life was pretty miserable, and mental health was pretty bad too. So I had a look on Facebook, since I had now official diagnosis of chronic urticaria, which I wouldn't get, and discovered your Facebook page then.
Yeah, so by this time you had tried all the antihistamines, and you'd even been on steroids. And I'm actually, it's not that common that people take these and it doesn't help. So you got to a point where you had taken so many things and it still didn't help, and so you still had to go on. Whereas I think there are a lot of people in the group who, they get the hives and then they progress up to the antihistamines and maybe it helps, so they stop looking for the solution, or they progress up to the antihistamines, it doesn't help, and then they get up to the steroids and that helps, and then they stop looking for the solution. But you kept anyway because you had to carry on looking for a solution. So I remember the time that you reached out, because you were on one of my master classes as well. I remember seeing you on some of the classes, and then you eventually reached out and we had a discussion. And at that time, I think you were also, you had found a functional medicine doctor in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. And then you were kind of on the fence. Do you work with the functional medicine doctor? Do you, and then you were asking me, like, what is it like working with you? And so where were you in that mindset of, because I sensed there was a bit of hesitation, and what made you eventually decide to jump in working with me?
I think in terms of the other functional medicine doctor, it was good that she was local and all, but I didn't know how much experience she actually had of chronic hives. So I suppose working with you probably gave me a lot more hope that you knew what you were doing. You'd had experience yourself with patients, so I thought I might learn more that way and have a more specific plan to work on this issue.
Great. Yeah. Sorry, say that again.
Oh, but before then I tried like the Scott McDonald diet too, of having a very restricted list of foods. And it worked to some extent. Like it got my hives down within the first week, but coming off the antihistamines, they came back. I'd managed to get them to almost nothing, but I was just so sick of that diet. I didn't think it was a very good solution. So I really found like feeling of eating more food, even though some of it didn't make sense to me, like the high histamine foods initially. But I quite liked eating more.
I know you were, when we started working together, you were down to like very few foods. Like, can you remember how many foods you were eating?
I was probably 20 max, I reckon.
And so that's really not something you want to be on long term. So yeah, and Scott's recommendations have helped a lot of people, and I think they do manage to empty the bucket for a lot of people, but it also doesn't address certain dynamics. So for you, what was the biggest takeaway in working with me?
I think it was a change of mindset from like what's going on the outside to what I'm actually putting in my body and what my body does with it. So yeah, learning about that and what I thought was healthy and what I was doing, I actually learned more and probably was realizing, oh, this is the way to actually be even healthier, and other things I need to get rid of, like pesticides and the like that I hadn't particularly thought of before in all types of food.
Yeah. I think you've hit on a good point, because everyone's looking outside. It's like, it's the pollen, it's the sun, it's the water, it's all of these things that are in my environment, and I need, how am I going to get away from these things? Because you can't, right? You can't go and not go out into the sun for the rest of your life, or not touch water or whatever it might be. So yeah, and you're right, you have to start looking inwards. What else am I doing and putting in my body that might be, contributing to this histamine bucket building up?
Yeah, because I certainly tried to like stay inside the house. I tried that solution, but it was miserable, like missed out on the beautiful summer and very isolating. So
yeah,
like this is work long term. So I'm glad there was another way.
Yeah, well, you're Southern Hemisphere now, so you're heading into summer as we're heading out of summer here in Europe. So you can look forward to some sunshine this summer.
It's actually be a better one. The last one, that was a write-off.
Yeah, perfect. So you had kind of worked with doctors before and dermatologists, etc. I'd love for you to share how you feel the work that I do might be different to other doctors that you've worked with.
Yeah, so the other doctors, they just seem to be treating the acute problem. So when something's really bad, you go to them and they like obviously they give you normally a medical solution, like here's a drug to solve it. Yeah. So I've been to the doctor like multiple times even before the hive, just with like minor ailments, and they just did the test and said, you're fine, but I didn't feel fine within myself. Like I felt that I wasn't as healthy as I should be, but I didn't have any solutions, or I didn't listen to you, I suppose. You just try and get out there as quick as possible. You go in and quickly tell them your problem, and then they try and get you out as quick as possible with a quick drug or prescription.
Yeah, that's very true. It's just symptom management versus trying to get at why. That's why I'm always asking why. I'm like a 2-year-old. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the other things that we did is and that I don't usually do is a lot of testing. But you decided to also do this hair mineral tissue analysis, hair tissue mineral analysis. Can you remember anything out of there that felt was like an aha as well? Was there any takeaways out of doing that test for you? What do you feel that you gleaned out of that?
Probably that I had too much calcium, because I had advice taking quite a high dose of calcium, because that was supposed to help, like vitamin C, help your hives. But obviously in hindsight, I'd taken a bit too much and that wasn't helpful. And also, I suppose, just the potassium and hydration. I need to like eat more meat and hydrate.
Yeah. And just to point out for the listeners, I didn't actually know before we started working together that you had also another autoimmune diagnosis of Hashimoto's. I'm curious to know how the symptoms of Hashimoto's have maybe changed since doing the work that you've done as well.
Yeah, it's hard to know, because it's never been a big issue for me. Like, I've never had symptoms of it. I found out when I was pregnant with my first son, and they just did the standard medication. I was always fine. The only time was maybe 9 months after I'd given birth that I got blurry vision in one eye, and I was feeling quite fatigued in hindsight, like having naps during the day. But people think, oh, that's like a newborn. So yeah, and like the doctor found out and adjusted my levels. But that's about the only symptom I've ever had of it. But maybe a bit more fatigue. But yeah, I have noticed I have been getting more energy back since changing my diet. I think that's about the only thing I could say. But there's nothing particularly extreme, because I always had it quite well managed.
Yeah, perfect. So now baby number 3 you're going to be planning for, I'm guessing. That's what we last spoke of. And you feel like you're your healthiest that you've been in a very long time. What are you going to do looking into the future to maintain this?
I think it's pretty sustainable, the diet and the changes. Yeah, it's a really multi-pronged approach, like the spiritual side, just looking after your mental health, getting sleep, and changing your diet. I enjoy like lots of vegetables and that kind of food anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and you can eat more than 20 now, right? Which is yay!
Like going from 20 hardly anything to this. Like, it seems really luxurious and really tasty, even though it's like not eating the bread and the cheese. But there's some good substitutes out there. But yes, it feels sustainable, this diet.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, I want to say congratulations, because it's I'm the guide and I give you the information, but it's up to the person that I'm speaking to and working with to implement, and you've done a great job of implementing. So congratulations.
Thanks.
So for anybody that might be sitting on the fence and thinking about whether they jump into a program with me, what would you say to them if they're a little bit hesitant?
I reckon there's probably not much to lose, because this kind of issue, it's not really a life and death one. It's just kind of uncomfortable with hives. If it was another one, I'd probably more go medicine and this. But yeah, I really didn't want to take medication route, because it seemed like, there's something wrong with your body, and if you could find a healthy way to solve it, then it seemed like the most healthy solution to do for yourself. And there's only positive changes you can get from it. I mean, you can't go wrong when you're changing your diet, when you're changing just healthy lifestyle habits. You haven't really got much to lose. And I found, like, when my hives did finally go away, I couldn't say like what it is, but it's kind of like 3 different things that was going on. Like, I got prayer from a rabbi at my Jewish church that week. My anxiety went down from that, so I built the spiritual side. And I started like some green shakes, I think, that Kimberly recommended, with wheatgrass, and like amped up my conversation with you. And that was just the time when my body was just happy, and it kind of went down that week. And after then, like, next few months I got a hive once every few weeks, and I think I've been hive-free for 4 weeks now. So I'd say there's only positive changes you can learn from it, and it's worth giving it a shot.
Yeah.
And your body will get a lot better. Like I feel less worried about maybe getting other autoimmune diseases. So say if you get more. So I feel a bit more confident in my own body that I'm trying my best to be the healthiest I can be.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, I think those are great takeaways. Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I think everybody in the group that may be listening to this also appreciates the information you've shared and your journey, and are celebrating with you and are looking forward to doing the same. Because it really is possible, right?
It is. There's lots of ups and downs. Like there's always hope and then disappointments when I thought it wasn't possible, but I'm amazed I've actually got there. Yes.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I wish you guys a wonderful week, and enjoy the time with the kids before you decide to go back to work. It's always a big challenge and change in the household, but I'm sure you'll manage it perfectly well.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Nicole. Thanks so much. Take care.